Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the City Council of Temple City for December 19th, 2023 to order. Madam City Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Sternquist? Here. Councilmember Vizcarra?
Here.
Councilmember Yu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Here.
Mayor Mann?
Here. Next, for the invocation, would everyone please rise for the invocation? Tonight we have Pastor Kelty from Community of Christ Church who will be providing the invocation for us. Please remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
O divine Creator, we thank you that we're able to meet here together this evening to conduct the business of the city of Temple City. We do so that we might provide direction to this community so it might become even a better community than it already is. We know that this will not be an easy task when it considers all of the problems and difficulties that we face. So we recognize it's not something that we can do on our own, but only through your divine support and guidance. It's for this reason that we offer you this prayer this evening, that we, dear Lord, may the city, the world around us, and the community in particular, as your divine creations, and we are its caregivers. Therefore, let this be our prayer this evening, that through what we do here tonight, tomorrow, and the following days, and day after, might be in a direction you would have us go. Indeed, we might leave this a better community than we have found it. Indeed, it may be a place where all might live in peace. We pray this in all humility. Amen.
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 Councilmember Yu will lead us in the pledge.
Okay, please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Tonight, the first item on our ceremonial matters, we have a very special one. It is our honor as the city to recognize the Temple City Tennis Club for their contributions to the community over the past 4 decades. The Temple City Tennis Club was founded by committee in 1979 by Al Lahine, Bill Tan, Fran Tuck, and Jack Tyrell. And I understand Fran Tuck is the current president and is here with us tonight. The tennis club started with 50 active members with the intention of fostering a budding tennis community at the newly opened Live Oak Park tennis courts. Over the years, the tennis club grew in membership and interest in giving back to Temple City. And the tennis club organized annual fundraisers with proceeds supporting court resurfacing, fence screens, and replacements of the nets at Live Oak Park. They then expanded to include scholarships to Temple City High School graduating seniors, the city's Concerts in the Park series, and March of Dimes. Temple City Tennis Club evolved into much more than just a tennis club. It was a part of the fabric of Temple City, with members organizing dances, picnics, social gatherings, and trips. They acted as goodwill ambassadors of Temple City when hosting tournaments with other local tennis clubs. And after 44 years in existence, the Temple City Tennis Club is bidding adieu. And in parting, I would like to share some words from them that they wrote for us. Time marches on, and even before COVID-19, membership dwindled, as many old-timers passed on, moved away, dropped out, and or stopped playing. We who used to be the young ones are now the old geezers. And even we have to sadly admit, we have now come to the end of the road. It was a wondrous ride while it lasted. So considering such a long period of service to our community it is our honor as a city council to present your club with a certificate of recognition. So I'd like to ask all the members of the club to actually come to the front, and I'd like to ask the city council to also join me in presenting this certificate.
One, two, three. One more. One, two, and three. Perfect. Thank you.
On behalf of the Temple City Tennis Club, I'd like to thank the City of Temple City for allowing us to use the courts exclusively every Sunday for the last 44 years. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
As the club folded, it was sad, but we have some money left over in our account, so we wanted to donate it to the city of Temple City. It's not a lot, but whatever we can use it for. Do I-
Thank you.
Do I give it to some?
Give it to the mayor.
Oh, okay. Fred,
Take a picture of you handing him the check.
Fran is the lone surviving founding member, and she's the current president, so she's like from beginning to end, she's the patron.
Hand him the check.
And this is the key to the bulletin board.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate this generous donation.
What's the check for?
Thank you so much.
All right. Again, thank you for the generous donation, and we wish you all the best. And thank you for everything you've done for the city over so many years. We really, really deeply appreciate it. Next, tonight, we also have a special presentation from our colleagues over at the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts, specifically about the sewer rehabilitation project. So I'd like to invite Matthew Watson, who is the Sanitation District Supervising Engineer, to provide this update for us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't think the mic's on.
My name is Matthew Watson. I'm a supervising engineer at the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. I want to thank the council and Ali Kayer, the city engineer, for inviting me to give this presentation. I'm here tonight to talk about a very important infrastructure project soon taking place in your beautiful community. I will be talking about a project that will rehabilitate a trunk sewer that has been providing continuous sewer service to your city for the past 70 years. But first, allow me to introduce the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. Originally founded 100 years ago in 1923, it is our mission to protect public health and the environment through innovative and cost-effective wastewater and solid waste management and in doing so, convert waste into resources such as recycled water, energy, and recycled materials. We operate an extensive wastewater collection and treatment system serving a total of 78 cities and unincorporated areas across Los Angeles County. This includes the 10 water reclamation plants seen as pink triangles, the Warren Water Resource Facility in Carson, shown in the blue triangle, and about 1,400 miles of trunk sewers seen as the blue lines, in addition to an ocean outfall system off the shore of the Palos Verdes Peninsula. Now I want to bring the focus to our sewer system. We recognize that most of our sewer system was originally built more than 50 years ago, and addressing aging infrastructure is a paramount concern to us. We have developed a robust capital improvement program to rehabilitate most of the district's sewers within the next 20 years, addressing the most critical areas first. On the next slide, you'll see a video describing a technology we use for rehabilitating sewers. This technology, called Cured in Place Pipe, is a liner that is installed without the need for excavation. This new liner essentially creates a new pipe within the old one. Oops. Oops. Sorry. Can we play the video? The fifth one.
This
Yep.
one, yeah, green one. There we go.
CIPP is a method. CIPP is a method used to replace a deteriorated underground pipe without digging it up. In the simplest terms, it is a pipe within a pipe. Here's how it works. A tube made of polyester felt or fiberglass, designed to the appropriate thickness and length for the application, is saturated with resin. This is also referred to as the wet-out process. The resin-saturated tube is then installed into the existing deteriorated pipe by inverting the tube into position using water or air pressure, or by pulling the tube into place and inflating it. Once in place, the tube is cured or hardened under pressure by using either heat in the form of hot water or
Okay. It's important to know that while this process is taking place, the sewer flow does have to be completely bypassed. Sewer service must be interrupted for properties that connect to the pipe where it is currently being rehabbed. These will be short interruptions, and I'll go into that further later in the presentation. Now I will introduce the project team. With me here tonight, I have Luis Leon from AECOM representing the engineer on the project. We also have Samer Soleiman with IEM, the construction manager on the project. And we also have Mark Weber from Sancon Technologies, who is the contractor. This project will rehabilitate nearly 18,000 feet of existing concrete sewer with a cured-in-place pipe liner. It will also rehabilitate 68 manholes with a protective coating. I'll show you a map on the next slide, but about 293 households, 26 businesses, and 2 schools lie along the project route. This includes Oak Avenue Intermediate and Longden Elementary. Rehabilitation was selected because replacing the sewer via open trench construction would be much more disruptive and costly. The total project cost for this project came out at about $5.4 million. On this slide, you can see the project route represented by the red line. The project will also take place in Arcadia and other unincorporated areas, but in Temple City, the project will begin on Oak Avenue, traveling south to Longden Avenue, then turns east on Longden to Encinita Avenue, then turns south for the remaining portion of the city along Encinita Avenue all the way to Lower Azusa.
So it will just be that area that will be affected then? Or the area around that particular?
Right, mostly the homes and businesses along that
Okay,
project route.
so small part of the city, actually. Yeah.
Construction activities will begin in earnest next month in January. Businesses and residents will be notified first. Then preliminary activities will begin, including manhole rehabilitation and prep work for the pipe lining. In mid-January, temporary service interruptions will begin in 6 phases. This will allow the contractor to implement flow bypass and perform the CIPP lining. Project completion is scheduled for late August 2024. On this slide, I wanted to show you what an example flow bypass plan will look like. This is Encinitas Avenue with north facing the left of the screen. You can also see Olive Street on the right and Broadway on the left. The dotted black lines show the underground sewer pipe, and the solid black lines show the above-ground flow bypass pipes, mostly routed in the center of the street. The orange boxes show where the noise-attenuated bypass pump setups will be. The blue boxes show where the bypass piping will be routed through shallow trenches in the road covered with traffic plates to allow vehicles to safely cross. On the next few slides, I will show photos of other similar projects that illustrate what these setups will look like. These photos show what a typical setup looks like for the CIPP lining operations. You can expect to see several work trucks, trailers, and a refrigerated box truck set up around a sewer manhole. The lining work for one reach from one manhole to another is completed within one day, so these setups will be temporary and will move along the project route as work is completed. Here you can see a typical setup for bypass pumps that remove the flow from the sewer to convey through the above-ground bypass pipes. Something to note is that we require complete system redundancy, which is why you see 2 pumps here and 2 pipes. Here you can see where the bypass pipes are routed through a shallow trench covered by traffic plates to allow traffic to flow through the intersection. Here you can see the bypass pipes routed in the center of the street, allowing traffic to move in both directions. Here, again, you can see where bypass piping is routed through a shallow trench to keep traffic disruptions minimal. As I mentioned before, sewer service will need to be temporarily interrupted for some residents while the work is taking place. The interruption will only be for about 8 hours, and the contractor will provide portable facilities with hand washing stations upon request. Here you can see an example of the portable facilities. The contractor will work with residents for delivery and placement of these units.
If I may ask a quick question. So you're saying every household has a service interruption will have a unit?
Yeah, generally, if they request it, we will provide.
Oh, only if it's requested?
Yeah,
And they will be without a toilet for 8 hours, basically?
about, yes.
Is that during the day or night?
Right.
Or?
It's 8 hour. I'll go into it more in detail in
okay,
later slides,
okay.
but it's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in general.
Oh, okay, so maybe a lot of people might be at work.
That is mostly the case. We
Yeah.
don't see too much
You have
disruption.
some other questions when he's done. Yeah.
I might
For-
forget them, though.
I have
Have
it
to write
written
'em down.
down. Yeah.
For businesses and critical facilities where sewer service cannot be interrupted, the contractor will provide continuous flow bypass through an existing sewer cleanout, or if an existing cleanout is not available, the contractor will install a temporary cleanout to facilitate the bypass. If you remember, I also mentioned the manholes will be rehabilitated with a protective coating. Here you can see a typical setup for manhole rehab on the left. This involves a small work area on the street and a few work trucks. You can also see this gentleman on the right applying a protective coating to the inside of a manhole shaft. In terms of community outreach, residents will be notified via doorknob hanger once at 14 days before the work, again at 7 days before the work, and finally a third notice will be provided 24 hours before work will begin on their street. The typical sewer service interruption will take approximately 8 hours from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can see the approximate schedule of all the activities for each sewer pipe on the slides. Residents should refrain from discharging large quantities of water down their drains while the work is being done. And as I mentioned before, portable facilities will be made available. Here you can see the project flyer that we've developed in English, Spanish, and I also provided a packet to you that includes the Mandarin flyer. I highlighted in the red box on the slides, at the bottom, the project contact, Samer Soliman, if there are any questions during the work. There is also a 24-hour emergency number for after-hours concerns. Lastly, I wanted to mention a couple more projects we have coming. Within Temple City, the District 15 Group 2 project will be on Lower Azusa from Hollowell to Baldwin, And the District 15 Group 1 project will be on El Monte from Live Oak to Grand, both anticipated to start in 2024. Also nearby, the District 17 Group 1 project in North El Monte and the Joint Outfall B Group 3 project in Arcadia. Once again, I want to thank the City of Temple City for hosting this presentation, where I could provide more information about this important project to address aging infrastructure. We would be happy to take any more questions you may have while I've got the whole team here for you today.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation, and appreciate everyone being here. I know we have some questions. Councilmember, you jotted some down, so.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe Mayor.
I just have one quick
You
question.
jotted
Yeah,
some?
go
Okay,
ahead
all right,
first.
Mayor
So
Pro
my
Tem,
understanding
go ahead.
is that any one resident along this area will be affected basically 8 hours out of one day of the entire project.
Correct.
So very minimum.
Correct. And it will move each day, different residents will be affected as the work moves along the project route.
Thank you.
Councilmember, you?
Right, and the bypass setups will be done in segments. So.
Yeah, I actually just need a little bit more detail, I mean, to Mayor Pro Tem's point. So, first of all, there'll be traffic impact, right? I mean, because you're doing the bypass lines and also, you'll be also digging up some certain trenches. So how much of a traffic impact can residents expect?
Pretty
Would
minimal.
Encinitas, for example, be reduced down to, I mean, will be a time that it's not passable?
And, you know, as part of the encroachment permit process, the contractor will be working and developing traffic control plans to be approved by the city, but did you want to say anything?
If you don't mind coming to the podium, because the meeting's being broadcasted. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, ask those questions.
This is Mark Weber from the contractor.
Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, in regards to bypass and also traffic, we do have those plans, both bypass and traffic control submitted for review. And we're maintaining traffic one lane in each direction throughout the duration of that. So residents will still be able to pass in either direction. We will have some areas where we may need to potentially detour them, you know, so they won't be able to cross over the bypass pipes in the residential area. But we'll still allow traffic in both directions.
So for the traffic that get interrupted, how long would that process be? Would that be throughout the duration of the entire project or just segments at that time?
Segments at a time. So we have the plans or the project broken up into 6 phases as it pertains to the city of Temple City. So we will set up one segment which will impact, let's say, 4,000 feet of sewer main at a time. That'll be approximately 15 to 20 days. Then we'll break that down, move on to the next phase of the project. Another, again, 15, 20 days thereabouts in each area as we're taking care of the sewer mains only contained within that area.
So when you move from one section to another, would your bypass also be taken, will be gone as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll set up bypass on phase 1. We'll do all the work that's contained within phase 1 for the sewer rehab. Then we'll break down phase 1, move on to phase 2 entirely. So all of phase 1 will be gone and complete at that time.
And, go ahead.
When you cross Las Tunas, because you're going to do it up there, right?
Yes.
How are you going to manage that? I mean, that's busy day and night.
We're going to do a shallow trench, basically to lay the bypass pipes in there. And then we're going to cover them with plates so that traffic can be reopened fully in that area.
You're going to do it at night or?
Yes. Yes, it will be done at night. That area and I believe there's one other designated area specific for night work.
It'll be one lane at a time, I will hope.
Exactly. Yeah, at the time while we're digging the trench and laying the pipe, and then once we're basically phased all the way through, it'll be reopened again for traffic with plates.
Yeah, it's gonna be some challenges, yeah, yeah.
Better you than me.
Have you considered doing it like on a weekend instead of during weekday, because we have pretty heavy traffic on Las Tunas? It's one of the main east-west
I think the way that the plans that we had were all during the week, but we haven't explored weekend work at this point.
Yeah, it might be a little easier to take during weekends. That's one. And then going back to Mayor Pro Tem's point of when a resident is being impacted, and I remember you have a slide that shows like they'll have 14 days advance notice. And what if they couldn't do it? Let's say they have a visitor or somebody sick or whatever. What kind of flexibility you have on the schedule in moving it to a different date?
It's case-by-case basis, I guess, based on the nature of the request. You know, obviously, that's part of the 2-week advance notice, the 1-week advance notice prior to the 24 hours is we should be theoretically be able to catch all those accommodations within that period that we're notifying. If it was a drastic measure, we could certainly move, you know, a date if we absolutely needed to. Obviously, that would then affect the other residents that we've notified along that same sewer segment. You know, I think that would certainly be a case where we would obviously work on getting the temporary facilities for that area.
But, excuse me, just to follow up on that.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't appear from the plans and the discussion that the egress and ingress to individual homes is gonna be affected.
They will not be.
Yeah, so they can still get in and out of their homes regardless of what's going on at that time in that particular area.
That's correct.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah, just to clarify, there was no work on their property anyways, all in the public right of way, right?
Public right of way, exactly.
I must say I didn't take any, I didn't read through this very carefully, I just kind of glanced at it, but I did not see anything that says that we will provide you with porta potties and that sort of thing. Would there be a separate notice for that?
Yes, and that's been submitted for review. So you guys will have input if you need to make any changes on that particular language. It's a separate notice. than that.
Okay, and then a question on porta potties, because I'm very familiar with those things, because I do construction in my other life, as you know. So what kind of porta potties are these provided? Are these got ceramic fixtures that people, residents, we commonly use, or the one that you see in construction job sites where you walk in and you see the blue liquid down below?
They're the more executive ones that you would see at, for instance, you know, an outdoor wedding that had areas basically supplementary to bring in, you know, so they're not our construction porta potties.
Yeah. Not the thing that you and I used to, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So just want to make sure. And then how, are there any possibility it's going to take more than 8 hours? Are there any, I mean, you said it's great, start in the morning, get done by 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yes, in the event that that happens, we typically know fairly, we either would make a call to essentially have to reschedule the work if we did feel as though it was going to take a substantial amount of time, over 8 hours for that particular day. But we do make personal contact with residents. We will go door to door if we do need to either postpone the work or we do need to essentially request an extension in time for that particular day due to some unforeseen
So
circumstance.
it could be a possibility you would notify them if, well, instead of stopping at 3 or 4 o'clock, we're gonna have to go to 6 or 7. And they would
Correct.
just be notified of that.
Correct, yeah.
How many homes did you say will be
I think
impacted?
it's 240 or something.
290.
290.
290? So you'll be giving them mail and door hangers. Would there be anybody knocking on people's door to make sure they actually, because not everybody reads mail, unfortunately, or door knockers get blown away or whatever. Would there be any attempt to make sure our residents are notified? Make sure they know ahead of time?
The door hangers suffice for our scope of work. And we also get a pretty good indication who has the notification or not when we do the cammering the day of, before we install the liner. We have a pretty good idea of who is using water, either didn't get the notice or got the notice and isn't paying attention to it, and we go and make personal contact to
make
request
sure
for them
they
to.
know.
Yeah, exactly.
But that'll be the day we found out that they don't have sewer.
True.
Okay. I don't know.
Quick, I'm just curious. What do you do when you hit the wash on Encinitas? There's a bridge there.
So we're actually working with UPRR right now to secure a permit.
What's CPR?
Oh, sorry, the railroad?
Okay.
Oh.
Eat and wash.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're actually, yeah, it's a siphon. We are actually lining the pipe that runs underneath that wash as well.
You're gonna go that deep?
Yeah.
The existing pipe is a siphon that passes underneath the wash, and so all they're doing is going in and providing that liner inside the pipe, so they don't have to dig anything.
Okay.
Is this technology relatively new? You guys have been doing this type of liners for a while now, or?
SandCon's been around since 1999, and actually in another form, probably about 10 years earlier than that as well. And then CIPP's been around since the 70s over in the UK, where it originated.
What is its estimated lifespan on?
It's designed for 50 years, and we're kind of, just over that 50-year mark. And so we have pretty good results based off how it's all designed.
Tom?
That it'll last then or longer.
We won't be around for that.
I used it at the hospital in Riverside, I think it was in 2004.
We still use it for many of our projects.
Good.
Yeah. One final question. As you do open trench, how are you repaving it? You just repave that one section, or I believe, maybe a city engineer can talk about that.
We are setting conditions for this as part of the permit. The trenching across Las Tunas will be shallow because it's a major street. They will actually repave entire intersection from crosswalk to crosswalk,
Very good.
not just a patch.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have. My only concern is that residents may not find out if they don't read the notice, or they'll find out the day of when Mr. Contractor knocks on their door. That's my only concern.
What's the worst case scenario? They go to flush their toilet, doesn't flush?
So, and that's a difficult thing to put into a notice, but
Well, I know, but-
yeah, for single-family residents, they can flush 2 times and nothing will happen. It won't affect our liner. It won't affect their own home. And we do get those questions quite a bit after we've passed notices, as you guys can imagine. And so in that scenario where we have the one-on-one conversation, it's a little bit easier to interface and provide that. Also helps alleviate the overall stress of I can't use my restroom for 8 hours, because they know that they can. Creatively, you can also use the restroom and not flush as well if you've ever gotten to a point where it's past the 2 flushes that we kind of allocate towards them when we have those discussions.
And again, when are we starting this?
Are we looking to start the actual, I guess, preliminary or the preliminary part of the project in mid-January?
Because your flyer says it's scheduled from fall 2023, but that's obviously passed.
Yeah, and that's part of,
Okay. That was part of the preliminary, maybe?
yeah, and some of the other nearby agencies as
Okay.
well, I believe, yeah.
But here in Temple City, it's in
January.
January.
Exactly.
Okay.
Would you, sorry, one last, sorry, I love questions. Would the city be reviewing the notice that you're going to give to our residents?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's part of the submittal. We want to make sure that they know they didn't get the porta potties.
They've been working with us for the last 7 months, actually, to establish conditions and requirements.
Is there anything we can do to get the word out? Like, are we gonna do anything, like maybe on our website or something like that?
Once the notice is finalized, we're gonna put on our website.
Okay, so there'll be other avenues for
Yes, we
them to get this information as
Just
well.
like the street layout projects, they'll be able to access.
Yeah, maybe something we can consider doing a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
We can always do
to
that.
help the project along.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think Councilmember Sternquist, you had a question?
Just a couple things. I was gonna ask what the lifespan was of it, and you said 50 years. Is the cost still beneficial or less? Because the other one lasted 70 years, so in 20 years, what's that cost offset going to be?
Well, the material has been around since 1970, and the technology has been around, it has been installed. Recently, about a year and a half ago, there were some pieces of the original 1970 pipe that was taken out of the ground, retested, and it was actually stronger than initially installed. So even though it's, the ASTM standard says it's designed for 50 years, it's lasted longer than that. And it can actually be designed for, 50 to 100 years, really. So it's, with regards to the longevity, the jury's still out. You know, it's been over 50 years already, and that pipe was still very strong.
You know, what's interesting is when I saw the video showing it, it reminds me of a recent discussion that I had with a doctor, and he was telling me that they're using this technology for people with Crohn's disease, where before they used to have to go in and cut the intestine and then resect it. Now what they go in is they make a little incision and they do something very similar, which continues the flow of the body fluids to go through. So it seems like the technology it's similar even going into the medical field, where people have thought, you know, instead of cutting or redoing something, you can actually do something where you can, you know, use similar technology but in the medical field. So
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
the biggest advantage of this one is the much less impact. Because if you're opening a trench, can you imagine in the middle of Ensenada, you know, all the machinery, all the impacts that you would
How
have?
deep are those pipes?
Around there are about 12 to 14 feet deep.
Do
And
you-
the siphon itself underneath the creek is more like 25, 26 feet.
And have you already determined that there are no places within this area where you might have to trench, or is that to be determined?
No, the pipe was inspected.
Okay.
The pipe is non-reinforced concrete.
Okay,
So, and
it
it's
is
almost
concrete.
70 years old, so that's why it's, you know, it's important that we rehabilitate that
Right.
pipe.
Good.
Any other council questions?
I just want to make a comment, just a comment. So,
Go ahead.
no, I think I appreciate, even though I asked a lot of questions, I really want to express my appreciation to Sen District for doing this. This is something,
Absolutely. We appreciate the city for the invitation.
yeah.
I was just gonna share, I was at the sanitation meeting yesterday, and something that I just saw on the news and it regarding the toilet to tap water program that existed way long ago and didn't go much further, but that is also an interesting project. Will someone be coming out and talking to the various cities about that new initiative and how that will affect the public?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, we're partnering with Metropolitan Water District on our Pure Water Southern California project, which will impact the entire region. But yeah, I can bring up your concern, your request to our Public Information Office, and perhaps we can schedule a presentation.
That was on the news before I
It's been
came
on the
over
news
here.
today, too.
And some gentleman, I don't know from what department, said that the water is going to taste better than the water that we have now. And I'm thinking, I don't know, might be getting a little used to, but
Well,
hey.
it's funny because one of the council members, actually Margaret Finley and Jordy, she said, well, you know, it failed so miserably the last time, and what's the difference? And the director said, well, it's not called toilet to tap it anymore. I forget what the new program is, but it's much more positive sounding.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, but it's, you know, they do regular tours down at our Pure Water demo facility in Carson, so if you're ever down in that area, it's a
I've
very
taken that
interesting
tour
tour.
as well, it's nice. In fact, we've even gone, have you gone on the boat?
I get seasick, so no, I have not taken.
That's the best thing, is to go on the boat, take you out into the,
It's only good if you don't get
Ocean.
seasick. If
Yeah,
you're
it's nice.
seasick, it's not.
yeah, you can't get seasick.
And if you can also just humor me, I have a few questions as well. So just so we understand, the only residents that are impacted are those directly adjacent to the alignment of the main trunk, or does it extend further out?
No, that's correct. The main impact, really the only impacts are going to be along that line, on that street, and only for that portion which is being rehabbed that day.
That day, okay, understood. And since part of this is going to go right by some of our schools, have you given this presentation to the school district?
We have not.
I highly recommend you do,
Okay.
because you're going to impact Longden, Oak, and potentially Temple City High School. And Oak traffic is pretty crazy.
Yeah, actually, that was one question I forgot to ask.
Especially during the school. I mean, we get complaints about traffic during drop-off, which is right when you're going to start at 8 o'clock. So, and to Councilmember Yu's point about doing work on the weekend, if there's one area you might consider doing that on the weekend, that would be it.
Yeah, there-
Or if you could somehow, I mean, you're saying mid-January, so you wouldn't be able to align it with winter break because that's basically right now. Nor would you be able to match it up with spring break, which is towards the end of March.
Yeah, there are special requirements in the specification that the contractor will need to coordinate with the schools very closely. I think it's a good idea that, you know, a similar presentation is given to them, but, you know, that's why they're also planning the schedule accordingly to make sure that the impact is reduced as much as possible.
Yeah, because your construction duration matches exactly with when school starts and when school ends. So those are the two busiest portions. And of course, we have students that bike and walk to school as well. And I mean, in your notice, you say, for your safety, the district recommends the public and especially children to stay away from the construction zone. But if the construction zone is right next to the school, they can't stay away. So just take that into consideration, because yeah, when parents get involved, that's a whole different
Oh, yes.
ball game.
Absolutely. And it's something that they're definitely taking into consideration. The other thing is, in that school area, there may be only one or two segments of, 300-400 feet. So it's only going to be an impact of those 2 or 3 days that's going to happen in that area.
Yeah, and also you mentioned you would accommodate businesses that cannot shut down or cannot just shut down their sewer. I
And the
assume that
schools.
applies to the schools as well.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
There are special cleanouts, temporary cleanouts that are installed for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're gonna run the bypass for the schools.
Correct.
So, yeah, that was one question I forgot to ask.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And just one other thing about the pumps that you briefly mentioned, I believe are located at some of the crossings. Are these pumps above ground?
Yes, they're above ground. They're noise attenuated though, so they should be softer than.
And do you have someone basically on site maintaining that pump during its entirety of its operation, or is it just kind of left there?
No, we do have requirements to maintain a competent person at all times while those pumps are running.
Okay,
It's part of our
that's-
redundancy requirements.
Okay, good to hear that. Okay. And you also mentioned a couple of future projects for other segments. Does this project plus those projects represent the entirety of the sanitation district's obligation within the city of Temple City? Or are there other segments that are not listed or planned for?
Yeah, to my recollection, looking at the maps, I believe those are all the district sewers that are planned for rehab within Temple City. So it should just be these 3 projects that affect your city.
Okay, and then so by definition, that means everything else is either private or the city's obligation to,
Oh, the rest of the sewer network?
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct, yeah. Or the county. We also have county sewers as well.
okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at just within the city limits. I'm wondering what portions are Sand District obligation versus the city? Or maybe Ali can help us better understand that as well. Later, yeah, I know you're not gonna know that right now, but that's just, for our information so that, exactly, yeah. So, okay, and let's see. I think that's it. Thank you for the presentation again.
Thank you, and my email is on the presentation as well if you have any follow-up questions.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, next we'll move on to public comments on items not listed on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to address the city council at this time?
Mr. Mayor, before we do public comment,
Oh.
I'd like to make a
Yes.
report from the city council's closed session.
Thank you
This
for
is a
reminding
good time
me.
to do it.
Okay.
The city council met had a special meeting at 6:30 and adjourned to closed session for one item of potential litigation. Following discussion by the council and staff, there was unanimous direction given to the city prosecutor's office to initiate civil litigation if one condition known to the potential defendant is not met by that defendant by a deadline that is also known to the defendant. That's my report. Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it, and thank you for reminding me of that. All right, we go back to public comment, and we have Mr. Steve Stafford.
Mayor Pro Tempore Chavez, council members. We had to work on this, the county had to come out and work on my street because the street buckled and collapsed in one area. And this is gonna continue on the street until it's repaved and repaired. It's in very bad shape.
When was that, Steve, that they came out?
They came out Friday. You can see when you get to Barella and Broadway that there's a patch in the street. Part of the problem that we have there is we got Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they park and they drive on that street. And they park to the point where they had to put some red curbs in there. And we need probably more red curbs there to deter some of their illegal parking. We've got an intersection of Barella and Broadway that they park right there, and you can't see the traffic coming when you're turning out of that street. I'd like to see some red curbs there. Red curbs on Golden West, where Golden West makes its wine like that. It's not a safe situation. And my biggest thing is the street I live on, it's just now falling apart. With the rain coming, it's just going to make the situation worse. Thank you. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the city council at this time? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment. We move on to the consent calendar. All items on here may be approved in a single motion unless council would like to pull any items for discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any objections? All right, seeing none, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Viscara?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. Next, public hearing. Tonight we have none. Next, unfinished business, we also have none. We move on to new business, item 10A, fiscal year 2023 to 2024, first quarter financial review, treasurer's report, revenue, expenditure, and capital project summary reports. And I'll turn it over to our Administrative Services Director, Paragus.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is our quarterly report that we present to you. This covers July through September of 2023 of this fiscal year. So tonight, we ask you to receive the reports and file them, and the other related reports to our first quarter financial review. We'll go over an analysis, a brief analysis, and as always, we speak about our general fund, which is our main operating fund. We'll discuss the revenues, expenditures, the fund balance, and then we'll end up with a conclusion and outlook. So, being the first 3 months of the year, everything is on target as budgeted, the general fund, and also our non-general fund, which is mostly our special revenue funds like Prop A, Prop C, those type of funding sources. On the general fund side, or on any of the other funds, there aren't currently no budget amendments requested to be approved. The general fund net operating surplus for fiscal year 23-24, we're looking at just a little over $871,000. However, when we factor in the one-time projects, one-time capital outlays, we're looking at a net surplus of $239,000. When we factor in our fiscal year 22-23 surplus into the estimated year-end general fund balance for 23-24, we're looking at $26.6 million. This is the pie chart of the revenues for the general fund. As you can see, the maroon or brown color is our taxes, which includes property taxes and sales taxes. Intergovernmental is also property taxes, but it's in lieu of our sales tax from years ago. So that, for general fund, we're looking at $17.9 million as a budget. For expenditures on the general fund side, we're looking at just under $17.7 million. You can see, as usual, public safety, community services, and general government are our biggest areas of expenses. So in summary, our fund balance for the general fund, you can see our current budget for the revenues, the operating expenditures. There's our operating surplus of $871,000, our one-time expenditures of $422,000, and then for a CIP project, which is a matching for our SB1 funds of $210,000, leaves us with an estimated surplus of $239,000. When we add this with our estimated, actually we just got our draft of our audit for fiscal year 22-23. So the actual fund balance is actually almost $4 million for year ending June 30 of 2023. So when we add the $239,000, we're looking at the $26.6 million of estimated fund balance. And I did a quick graph covering the last 13, 14 years of the city's fund balances. As you can see, the data I can find was as of only 2010 to 2011. So it's $25.3 million that year. However, because of the economic downturn in the future or the subsequent years, we were down all the way to $18 million. And so in the last 10 years, we've gone up about $6.6 million from the 2014-15 fiscal year, and that was about, I believe, a 32.6% increase since then. So I want to commend, the council, city staff for watching our financial status and trying to keep our expenditures down and not spending it when it's not needed. And additionally, I just want to say our revenues have gone up also.
If I could add, actually, a lot of that dip is actually because the council then have voted to spend money on capital improvement projects, including like the Rosemead Boulevard. So some of that were conscious spending.
Yes.
Or conscious investment, should I say.
Yeah, things have been spent for the community.
Right.
For the ARPA funds, which is also a big funding source from the federal government, the city received an allocation of almost $8.6 million. Council has approved the following projects: the chamber upgrade. You can see all the technology that's been upgraded here. We're planning on the City Hall roof and HVAC system. The trellis repair has been completed, as you can see at City Hall. We're doing a financial system upgrade. We're in the middle of that. We're also planning for that Las Tunas Drive, which ARPA is a portion of the funding for that project. A majority of the ARPA funding is the Parks Playground renovation, which will benefit the community on both parks, the Live Oak Park and the Temple City Park. And then small expenses to update the tables and chairs, the stage, the workstations at Live Oak Park specifically. And then we spent money on that welcome sign coming from Arcadia of about almost $13,000.
So we've already paid for that?
Yes.
But we don't have it yet, right?
I'm not sure. I have to check on that one.
No, it's not.
Yeah, because I think, Cindy, you always ask about this. Well, we haven't heard any update
The
on it.
last I heard was that they were just waiting for the city of Arcadia to put those, what are they
Oh,
called?
that's right, they wanted to
balusters
move
or
it
something?
somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, the traffic
Yeah,
bollards.
that's right, they
Yeah,
wanted to move it.
that's the last I've
Because
heard.
it's,
But
because it's
every time I
technically,
drive by it, I keep thinking
it's
that.
technically in the city of Arcadia, the sign.
And considerably, the original cost, I believe, was a lot more than this $12,700, so we've had some savings there. So with all the approved budgets, that leaves us to inform the council of $1.4 million of still unallocated funds from ARPA funds.
And we have to
again,
spend that by when?
we have to commit by the end of 2024, so December 31. That means either having a contract, a PO for the projects, and then expenditure-wise by 2026, end of 2026.
For what project?
So really, there's really a small conclusion. Again, we are expecting a $239,000 surplus. Our estimated fund balance is at the highest since fiscal year 10-11, and currently revenues and expenditures are on track. The outlook, almost the same as the last quarter. The cost of goods continue to increase. However, that also translates into higher sales tax revenues for us. Investment interest rates are stabilizing, which means the market values of the investment mechanism are slowly increasing. So our market values, instead of going down, it's slowly trying to go back up where it is. But I want to emphasize that it doesn't really, the market value does not really impact city investments because we wait for the investments to mature. This is only impacted if we really need the money and have to withdraw it before the maturity date, which I can say we have liquidity available. So I don't see that we'll be pulling these funds early. And then home sales, again, slow down. As you know, the interest rates are higher. So our property tax is considered to be flat. Just an info, the median price for the city of Temple City as of October 31st was $1.02 million, but that was a decrease of almost 5% over the prior year. So that's why, but it's still up there in the millions, in the million.
Would you say, Director Paragus, when you see the decrease of the sales price drop about almost 5%, would you see the property tax revenue would correspondingly go down? Obviously not in the same range, but maybe it will be impacted.
The property tax revenues we collect will not, there's no, it doesn't affect our property tax when the median price goes down. All that means is maybe people are holding on to their more expensive homes and not selling. So these could be the other homes that are older, worth less, and that's what they're selling, or there's less transfer of homes, less sales. It doesn't mean our revenues will decrease.
So our assessor hasn't.
No, they have not made that adjustment because unlike the last time, there was a true income disparity. This time, it's not because of income, it's because of the mortgage rates. Okay.
The property tax increases will only be affected when properties are sold or if there's new construction or
Correct.
improvements.
So
And that gives us a kick up in the property.
when Temple City's residents sells their home, it's going to be at the higher rate they originally bought it.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
when we
yeah.
see the
That's a good
difference in
point,
property tax revenues.
Mayor Pro Tem, that's a good
But it's a catch-22, most housing sales are down. So that's
Right.
why our property tax is kind of flattened out.
Yeah, but if ever they sell, it would
Yeah.
be much higher than
Yes.
what they bought it for.
Oh, yeah, no
Correct.
question.
Typically, yeah.
And that is the report. So the recommended action is to receive and file the fiscal year 23-24 first quarter financial review and related reports.
Okay.
Any more questions?
All right. Any questions from council at this time?
Just a comment.
Sure.
I think what I'm so appreciative is that the steps that the council has taken have given us a healthy fund balance, and yet we've been able to invest in the community. Because it's one thing to have a large amount of money in your reserves, but not do anything. And I think we've really done a great job of doing both, keeping that healthy reserves and then also being able to invest back in the community. And I think that's what you want to do as a city.
Best of two worlds.
And before we get to more comments, I'd like to open the public comment, but for now, any council questions?
No.
Okay, then let me open up the public comment before we go into further. Does anyone want to comment on this matter? All right, seeing no public comment, I will close public comment and we'll go into final council discussion or further comments. Councilmember Sternquist, was there anything else you wanted to add?
That's all, thank
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
I don't know why I thought of this right now, but it brought back memories of the first time that I ran for election. Remember, Vince, that we had to go get interviewed by the Star News? And I remember a particular reporter, I can't remember his name now, and I don't think he's there anymore, but.
Steve Scazillo?
No, it wasn't Steve.
His
no.
boss?
It was somebody, I can't remember. He had nothing but negative things to say about Temple City, remember?
Yeah.
And I think he was just trying to get under our skin.
Yeah.
He was the editor.
He wanted
Yeah.
us to
He was
react.
a small,
He wanted
thin
us
guy.
to react.
And I wish I could see him now and say, look, what's happened in Temple City in the last 14 years. Not only do we have improvements for the community, but also financially we are very well off, so. But again, it's just typical news person, but for some reason I just thought of that right now when you were going over those numbers. So, thank you, and you guys have done a great job.
Thank you, Susan,
The
also.
staff and everybody else guiding our way on this, so thank you. So,
Councilmember Yu?
Yeah, I would echo what been said by Councilmember Sternquist and the Mayor Pro Tem. And I think that it's really very nicely put by Councilmember Sternquist. We try to really balance keeping a conservative approach and balancing saving money, but yet at the same time investing in the city's infrastructure. So, I mean, that big dip, I mean, we can mention at least a few of the capital projects we've done. We've done the Primrose Park recently, the library improvement, the Rosemead Boulevard improvement, and many paving jobs that you've seen around the city is really a result of that. So, and thank you, Director Pargas, for keeping us strong financially.
Thank you. Councilmember Viscara?
I've heard enough comments from people outside of the city who really admire what we have going here. And I think it's due primarily to you guys, the leadership you've shown as well as the staff. And, let's stay on that track. We're doing well.
Thank you. Yeah, and I concur with everything that's been said. For me, the engineer in me, what jumps out is the amount we've budgeted for capital improvement program, $13.8 million. For a city of our size, that's not a number we see very often. But of course, a big chunk of that comes in the form of the playground improvements that we plan on doing at both Live Oak Park and Temple City Park. And like Councilmember Yu said, I think one of the things we've been trying to be consistent with is, with the help of our city engineer, Ali Khair, who was here earlier, really map out a optimal way to really repave our streets. And I know earlier there was a comment about that. But really the engineering approach balanced with sort of the available funds that we have is kind of, we're trying to do it in objective and optimal way as possible. So that's something we didn't have many years ago, but now there's a system actually in place to help us address that. So I'm sure when future expenditure reports, we're going to start seeing these numbers go up on the CIP side, which will be great to see, because that means we're actually investing that money back into the city. So looking forward to that. We have a lot of exciting projects coming up. And of course, also thank you for bringing up the unallocated portion of the American Rescue Plan money that we have left. And I think that's more motivation for us to continue working so that we don't let that go to waste. And I know City Manager Cook and the rest of staff is already busy working on identifying some of those opportunities. And so we have more to come. So thank you very much for the great work that you and your staff do. All right, so may we have a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive and file?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any objections? Seeing none, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Viscara?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. Next, item 10B, a request for appropriation of ARPA funds for pickleball court conversion at Live Oak Park. And tonight, I will turn it over to our Parks and Recreation Director, Adam Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mayor Mann.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Mann, members of the City Council. Good evening. Speaking about our unallocated ARPA funds, our next report covers a potential project for use of those funds. Today we're requesting allocation of those funds for a pickleball court conversion at Live Oak Park. Just wanted to provide some background information on the program. The city was approached from a few different sources about starting a pickleball program in the city. We don't, at least from a municipal standpoint, have had any pickleball courts or use prior to 2022. So back in October of 2022, we had initiated a pilot program utilizing Court 7 at Live Oak Park for temporary pickleball use. That started off as Friday mornings and expanded over the course of the pilot program, which I'll be able to go into more detail later in the presentation. Just generally, pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports. I know most people have probably heard of it at some point recently, and it is a very highly growing sport, not only within our community but surrounding communities as well. This proposal did go to the Parks and Recreation Commission back in August for their consideration, and they are recommending to the council a full conversion of Court 7. Just some background on pickleball itself. You can fit 4 regulation pickleball courts on a full-size tennis court, and this would be the layout of Court 7 at Live Oak Park should it be approved. As a game, the pickleball is a much more faster paced play. Typically it's played with 4 players on a court at once. And games have a much quicker turnover than a traditional tennis match. Locally, there are some other courts in and around the area. So those are just some of the other locations. Some of them are full-on pickleball courts. Some of them are hybrid use pickleball courts, but those, from a quick search, are other just courts in the area.
So question, are we planning on a hybrid, or are we doing the total conversion?
The recommendation from the commission is to do a full conversion.
So there would not be the tennis court lines and nor the net, they'll be all gone, right? In its place with a pickleball setup.
Yes, so
And
this
you'd only
is just
lose 1 tennis court?
correct. Yes, this is just a representation, so you see how it orients on a traditional tennis court. But the recommendation would be to do a full conversion, which would be the removal of the tennis court lines. So you would only see the pickleball court lines present. Most likely, however, though, we would maintain the tennis net, and those are typically maintained in order to serve as a barrier in between the courts. So the play of one pickleball court, like the ball doesn't fly into the adjacent court. So typically those are left up in order to prevent that.
Those don't interfere with the
that
play?
interference. No, there's usually enough clearance, or there's enough clearance with our facility that it's more beneficial to have it up than to not have it. So this is the results or the information that we collected over the course of the pilot program. This goes through July, which is when we had presented it to the commission. But we had first started off on Friday mornings, so that's where you would see most of that usage, at least in the first few months of the program itself. As you can see, the numbers grew over time to the point where we started to add additional days, Thursdays and Fridays. And then during the summertime, we really opened it up. So you would still typically see more usage in the mornings because that's when staff would go out and actually set up the equipment. And then at other parts of the day, it was just made available so you could check out the equipment from the community center to set up. But we would anticipate much higher usage should we see a full conversion, because then the actual equipment, the nets, the lines would already be in place, ready to play, so you could just head out there during any open park times to play with a full conversion.
I forget, are these lighted?
The pilot program was on court 7, which is an unlit court, so it's only during daylight hours, daytime hours. So just for reference, if you're just to orient everybody with the slide, so this is the 7 courts at Live Oak Park. The street to the north is Bogue Street, to the top of the slide, and then to the right of this slide is Gracewood. So the pickleball court is the furthest east of the bank of the tennis courts, and then the courts 4, 5, 6, and 7 are the unlit courts. So those are only daytime use courts. As noted, court 7 would be closest. If you expand out to the right of the slide, that's where the convalescent home would be, and the assisted living home and parking lot. And then to the north, there are 2 residential homes. And again, I have some more information regarding some of the impacts that we saw or lack of impacts during the pilot program.
Adam, I noted in your report that the residences of the home right directly across from Court 7 did come to the Parks and Rec meeting, I believe you said, and voiced their opinion about the whole thing. And they were okay with it, they were just concerned about the hours, I believe.
Correct, so. Was
Was there any outreach to that other residents, I guess it would be 5570 Glickman? Have we heard from them either in any way?
We hadn't heard from any other residents, but we didn't do any specific outreach for that. The residents that are most adjacent to the court did come to the commission meeting.
Right.
At the commission meeting, they did share that during the public comment section of the agenda item that they didn't have any reservations about the conversion of the courts to pickleball courts, as long as they were maintained as, on the unlit portion of the tennis courts. They did voice that they would have reservations if those courts were lit and play would continue past sunset into the as late as potentially 10 o'clock, which would be the closing time of the park. But for daytime use, they did not have any reservations. So if you have heard about pickleball, usually one of the biggest complaints or issues tends to be with the noise. Pickleball, it's just because of the frequency of play, it's a much quicker paced game, and the paddle and the ball make a kind of a louder sound than a tennis ball would make. So a lot of times you do hear noise complaints from residents or people that surround pickleball courts because of that noise factor. You also would take into consideration that on one tennis court you would have potentially 4 games of pickleball being played all at once, and that all contributes to more noise that's created by pickleball. Another impact, if we did do a full conversion, would be we would decrease the amount of tennis courts at Live Oak Park. It would go down from 7 courts to 6 courts. And with that, we would potentially see increased use times or wait times for use of the tennis courts, just simply from going down from 7 to 6. Now, during the pilot program, what we did note was that we really did not have any type of noise complaints received from the staff level through the city's website, tracker of complaints or issues, emails to Parks and Recreation staff. We attribute it mostly to it being during daytime hours. They're not being utilized in the evenings where you're maybe winding down or getting ready for bed or having your family getting ready for bed. So we really didn't see that. Additionally, the most adjacent people around that court 7 would be the convalescent home and the senior assisted living home, and there's a little bit of buffer there And, you know, again, the closest residents, with it being daytime use hours, they really didn't have any concerns about the noise. In terms of the wait.
Although when you say daylight lit
Mhm.
hours, obviously those change.
They do.
I mean, right now it's dark at 4:45.
Mhm.
In the summertime, it's not dark till 8:15, 8:30.
Correct.
So,
So,
I mean-
and that's part of the reason why we wanted to pilot this program as long as we did. So the pilot program has continued on since October of last year. So we've seen that pickleball use, or at least open and available for use in the latter part of the evenings during the summer. And we still hadn't received any complaints even during the summer use time hours.
What time does it start in the morning?
The courts are open as early as 6 o'clock, but our program time use at least was 8 o'clock. But once we opened it up at all hours, you know, it's, you know, when the community center would open at 8 o'clock. We might see some increased use at the earlier times, since you wouldn't need to check out, you know, the nets for the pickleball court use. They would just be open. So that could start as early as 6.
I didn't see anything in your report about hours of operation,
It would just be our park hours.
which are,
The park hours are 6 a.m. to 10
so
p.m.
somebody could be out there, you could have 8 people out there playing pickleball at 6 o'clock in the morning?
You could, yes.
Don't you think that could
with
be a
tennis.
little noisy, and maybe if people who want to sleep in and,
They should be up by then.
well, they will be once they hear that. I
It
thought we
could-
were talking about limiting the hours from like 8 a.m. to dusk or something like that.
Just during our regular daytime park hours. So the park hours would be from 6 to 10. And then because the courts are not lit, it would basically be during daylight hours.
Well, you had in your report here, it says designated car hours were from 8 a.m. until dusk. So is that, so it's not going to be 6 a.m. The pilot program was from 8 a.m.
Correct.
So why would you change that?
Well, the pilot program was necessitated on us bringing out the nets. So staff had to actually put the nets up. They were temporary nets. So once they're permanently installed, there's not a, you know, they're already up, so it doesn't require staff to put them
What
up.
time does staff get to the park?
Recreation staff are on site at 8 o'clock.
Okay, so there's nobody there at 6 o'clock.
The maintenance staff would be there at 6 o'clock.
And aren't those courts normally locked during non-use
Correct.
hours? So who unlocks them?
The maintenance staff.
So they come at 6 o'clock and unlock all the courts?
They open up all the facilities, so the courts, the restrooms.
Are the tennis players playing that early?
Hmm?
I have a quick question. Are the courts first come, first serve, or is?
They are.
They are, okay. And that includes tennis and potentially the pickleball courts?
Yes, they're first come, first serve use unless there's a designated either city program or contract class where there's private lessons, but the majority of the use times are first come, first serve.
Do you anticipate any of the pickleball courts being used for contract classes?
We would, in order to maximize use and just expand the use of amenity, we most likely would. Like with tennis, typically we would try to find hours that are conducive to, you know, filling gaps of use. So probably early afternoon timeframes, you know, in terms of programming, or even, you know, certain mornings. But we would look to try to maximize the facility and the space as much as possible.
Is there more to your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Please
just in
continue.
terms of the wait times, typically our longest wait times for the tennis courts are in the evenings, and that's when it's the lighted tennis court use. So because we're recommending a conversion of the non-lit tennis court, we don't anticipate there would be a very large increase of wait time for the remaining tennis courts, because the courts just aren't as highly utilized during the day. They're just, there's more use in the evening, and when you're converting an unlit tennis court, really doesn't impact the lighted tennis courts and that kind of, the high time of use for tennis. So, even though it is a concern, we don't think it's a very large concern just because it's which court we're utilizing for the conversion.
Do we have a time limit on the use of the court? Like, let's say two people wanted to go out and use the court for 8 hours. That's not a problem?
As long as there's no one else waiting for use of it, they could.
What if there is?
There is, we would probably institute, more of a tennis, or what we utilize for tennis is that,
I'm asking right now, though.
Yeah, yes. So right now, once, if somebody's in play and all the courts are in use, then when you kind of get in line to use the next court, you have to be off in within an hour. So.
Is that written down somewhere?
We have rules on the tennis courts.
Thing? Okay.
Yeah,
so
signage.
Would those same rules then apply to the pickleball court use then?
They would, but
I don't know how long people play pickleball.
Well, so and it's just played in a different way. The games turn over much quicker, so you're not on the court for, let's say, I think people are probably familiar with tennis. Let's say you're just playing like a 3-set match. That's going to take at least an hour, if not longer. The pickleball matches turn over very quickly. They're probably maybe 10 to 15 minutes before it turns over, and then the next group comes on. So you see this like constant rotation of play with a higher frequency than you do with tennis. It's a different style of play. So in terms of the wait time.
So I guess what I want to know is, are we going to be prepared to, I'm assuming that we're hoping this is going to be a success and more people are going to be using these courts. I would anticipate at some point there may be, I wouldn't want to see a line out the court for people to play on those courts. I mean, how are we going to control that, or are we going to set limits on playing time?
So the playing time those limits would only come into play if they're all currently in use.
Right,
And once
so let's assume that's the case.
And then once they're all currently in use, then it would be a max of an hour. But, it's probably something we would need to explore a little bit more because, again, like one match does not take an hour. It just, it's different. You're rotating through a lot quicker. So really what it would mean is you're just probably waiting longer until you get back onto the court of play, because once you kind of lose, then, you kind of jump to the back and then the next group plays. It's almost like, for lack of a better description, like when you're at the arcade and you put your quarter down when you lose, you put the quarter depending upon how many people are waiting for use. But again, with 4 courts and just the type of play or the way pickleball is played, you just see a lot more turnover of it. And it's the way I would describe it, if you have a chance to see it played, usually Friday mornings are a good time to go, is it's a very social sport. So usually everybody that's playing or that's waiting, they're all part of just playing together. So it's a very, social.
Right?
Pardon me?
They almost self-monitor themselves.
Yes, to a great extent, but we also operate the community center 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So like with tennis, if there's any times there are disputes or things that get heated or out of hand, our staff is on site to be able to address that.
But they're a long ways from that court.
They are. But we've operated that way with tennis, and that's our closest, similarity in terms of play. And, although we've had issues, I think we've been able to mitigate them.
Well, I'm hoping that the adults will be able to police themselves in that area. I'm just concerned about staff having to go over there and say, hey, you've been on here too long, time to get off.
Right. Yeah. We haven't experienced it. Yeah, we haven't experienced it with the pilot program, and obviously this is a change in use. But yeah, I'm generally, when I've gone out there and watched it, it's very much a social sport. So even though you have all 4 courts in use, there's just, there's a lot of camaraderie amongst the players, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of, issues with hey, it's my time, or you're hogging it and it's just, there's a lot of communication that's going on.
So there's no conflicts?
Not that we've seen with the pilot program, no.
Yeah, for the members of the audience, you will have a chance to address the council, so if you don't mind waiting till that time to speak, thank you. Director Matsumoto.
Yes, just one other note as well. We've had Temple City High School utilize our courts for tournaments for their teams. So we've notified them that, this is something that we're taking a look at. I just wanted to verify with them if that impacts their use of the facility for tournaments. And they indicated that it doesn't have an impact on their use. So going down from 7 to 6 courts, they would still be able to utilize it in the same way. Again, just some background on the commission review. They are recommending the full conversion. They considered 2 other options, which would be to keep it maintained as a tennis court or a hybrid option. The hybrid option is what you saw on that earlier slide where you see the pickleball courts overlaid on top of a tennis court. Part of their consideration for that is, one is, with the hybrid option, the city of San Gabriel has had that as their option at Smith Park. They've relayed to us that although it's worked, it hasn't quite been ideal. A lot of times you're doing probably more policing between tennis users and pickleball users, in terms of like who got there first or who has priority. Also with the equipment, it requires staff time to go out there and set it up, or you allow the users access to that, but then, you worry about the longevity of the equipment and if it's being set up correctly. So amongst the 3 options, the commission is recommending that full conversion. We received 5 comments during that commission meeting. All 5 were in support of pickleball. Overall, we probably had about 20 members of the pickleball community or residents come in and also want to, provide their support for the program. We have been advertising.
Did you have any speakers against it?
We did not.
Okay.
And we have been advertising on the tennis courts that we were going to be reviewing this, and so we were trying to give ample opportunity to both pickleball and tennis court users. I'm sure some of the group here will share with you. A lot of pickleball players are former tennis players. It's just pickleball can help you continue to play past certain points where maybe you would have had to slow down or stop playing tennis. And some people play both at the same time because they are just different types of games that are played. So at least through the commission meeting and just generally from the public, we hadn't really heard of, we really hadn't heard from the tennis community being, opposed to the conversion there. So I think it was more so of like, hey, it's not ideal, but we kind of understand why the pilot program is being explored and potential conversion is being explored.
Other than the tennis club, which we know is now no longer operating, and Temple City High School, are there any other groups that actually utilize the courts currently?
There are through the city's contract class program. So we do work with contractors
but
to provide.
Eliminating the one court would not affect that program?
It would not.
Okay, but there are no other programs, because wasn't
LaSalle
at one time
High School, I
LaSalle
think.
was using it, or Rio Hondo, somebody else was using those courts?
Occasionally we have Rio Hondo use it on behalf of Temple City High School. So normally we're working through Temple City High School, and they said they wouldn't have an issue with that. At least since I've been here, we haven't had a request from LaSalle, so it's been a few years since we've had a request from them.
Okay.
But other than that, before the council is a request to allocate, amount not to exceed 24,000, and that would cover the full conversion of court 7 to 4 pickleball courts. So that would conclude my presentation unless the council has any further questions.
All right, so before we go to public comment, we can Any further questions from council? Councilmember Sternquist? No? Mayor Pro Tem, any more?
I don't think I have any questions. Adam, I want to thank you for addressing some of the concerns that I brought up at the last meeting. So
Sure.
those were pretty much all answered as far as the question is concerned.
Just to add on, I know I didn't include it in the slides, but staff did do some initial research on sound deadening fabric for surrounding the courts if, sound became an issue. We're still waiting on quotes to see what the cost or the dollar amount for that would be, but there are some options for sound mitigation. The other options would be requiring different types of use of balls or paddles, which from our end might be a little bit more difficult from an enforcement standpoint, but
We're not planning on providing equipment for people.
No,
They have
not
to bring their own.
Once we do a full conversion, we may still continue to have some of our sets available in case, a family may want to test it out without.
So we actually have pickleball court equipment at the park?
We
and
do,
people can,
because
like, check it out?
that's part of the pilot program right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. We have the $250 paddles or the $50
No,
paddles?
I think if we had those paddles, we wouldn't see them back.
Might have to put a deposit down to get them.
Maybe hold a driver's license or something.
Like a bowling ball.
Bowling? That's true.
I don't think I have any, let me just look at my notes real quick. I don't really have any questions. I maybe have a couple of comments, but I'll wait till we get to that point.
Sure, thank you. Councilmember Yu, any questions?
No questions, already asked mine.
Okay. Councilmember Viscara, any questions?
I think he was quite thorough.
Okay. I just have one quick one. On this diagram here, it says portable pickleball net. So a permanent conversion, I don't know much about this. So the permanent conversion still uses a portable net?
No, that was just a image that we had pulled.
Okay, so the permanent ones are actually going to be poles cast into the ground?
They're core drilled, installed, so they're physically installed. They would be like, the tennis court nets posts where they're physically installed, where you wouldn't be able to take out at least the post. You would be able to swap out the nets, once they, over time, with wear and tear, they need replacement, but the posts would be permanently installed.
Okay.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
So with these courts, I'm sure there's I'm not sure if there is, but is there some type of state or national association for pickleball, I would assume, like in tennis?
There are, yes.
And they probably have certain requirements as far as court size and
Yes.
dimensions. So the proposal that we have before us, would it meet those requirements so that if one day we wanted to host a tournament there, we would be able to do that? Does that make sense?
Yes, they are all regulated and standardized dimensions for pickleball play. So yes, if we had wanted to, in the future, if it is approved, we would be able to host a tournament or, league play or things like that.
Adam, they are using Oak Avenue too, right, for pickleball?
So, I've had some discussions with the school district, but Oak.
Yeah, they don't let us.
Oak does have pickleball courts, but as far as I know right now, it's only utilized by students. I don't think it has any public hours at all. I don't believe. So, I know, yes,
Well, I know
I can't
a
speak for their
friend in
facility, but-
Arcadia, actually, who was hoping to come this evening, but he went to a tournament at Oak Avenue. So I think on the weekends, possibly.
adults?
For adults. But he actually initially contacted our commission saying, oh, could Temple City, get courts in, because there's just so much demand for them.
My assumption would be that those were probably rented. Usually if there's outside of school use of school
rented.
facilities, typically they're
They're
rentals.
gonna charge for it.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
typically.
All right, thank you. With that, I will open the public comment. If there is anyone who would like to address the city council at this time, you may come up to the podium. And yeah, please come up to the podium if you would like to speak on this. Yeah. And after you speak, I would also ask you to fill out a speaker form with the city clerk. You could do that afterwards. Yeah. And just for those of you that are aware, we typically allow about 3 minutes per speaker, so we just want you to keep that in mind.
Only 3 minutes?
Yes.
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Adam. He did a great job. You know, he and his staff work with us really closely. I'm going to answer a lot of questions from all of you. Even though if the park open at 6:30 in the morning, believe me, we're not going to go out there at 6:30. It's too dark and it's too cold. I want to sleep in. But we do get up at 8 o'clock. And currently, you know, the park help us set up on Thursday and Friday. And you have to see it's tough because right now they don't have a permanent line. And lately, because of the rain, so somebody had to draw the line. It's crooked. Like, it's not even straight. So that's the thing. That's why we should have full conversion. Number one, the staff doesn't have to come out to set up the net and draw the line when the rain. And then we always play from 8 to 12, and then I remember Mr. Tom Travis, you were asking, how about, there's a lot of people, how are we gonna do that? We do have a paddle system. And like Adam mentioned, most of the people in the community, they're nice. We have all different kind of ages. You have 12 years old up to 86 years old, right?
I'm not worried about people in Temple City. I know they're nice. I'm worried about people in Arcadia and El Monte and who are going to come over and use our pickleball courts.
They don't because they came. Actually, we have one resident from Monrovia that came by. They laugh at us. They say, Temple City is such a beautiful city, and you guys don't have a permanent court. And we from Monrovia, we have full court. And then Arcadia have Arcadia Park and also Camino Grove. You know that. So they all came. They said, no, we're not coming here. You guys don't have a full court. You can have draw line like a, you know, funny thing. I said, that's fine, but we're happy. We are very happy because Adam team did a great job, you know what I mean? They really cooperate with us and all that. Now, the reason why I'm here today, I want to tell you that this Saturday, we create our own group for a tournament. So if you have time, come by. It's from 8 to 12 in the morning. And then we just do it for fun, and then everybody come out to the community before Christmas. They want to do a Christmas party. I said, not yet. Until this thing, you know, make a full conversion so I can invite everybody to come and we can have a potluck on Friday. So you guys all can welcome to see it. And these people are wonderful people, you know what I mean? Like pickleball is a friendly, it's a, like Adam mentioned, it's a fast and growing game, you know what I mean? Everybody know about pickleball. It's true. And then a lot of elderly, I'm sorry, not really elderly. They don't want to play tennis anymore. They want to come and join with us. And then they sit there, they play, and then they sit down, they talk, we communicate, socialize. It's good for dementia, you know what I mean? It's things like that. But yeah, I just think like it's a fast and grow, and then my kid came out there, we come out there, and all of them. And I met so many good family, you know what I mean? And it's a healthy sport, healthy, think about that. Thank you, so please reconsider about that. The only thing I want to know, if you all approve this proposal from Adam, I just want to ask Adam, how soon is this going to be done? What is the estimate time? How long it take?
We'll take that into consideration, and we'll ask Adam after you're done with your comments.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come up? Okay. And by the way, I didn't get your name, miss, but would you please fill out a speaker request form with the city clerk, please? Thank you.
I am Ron Brown. I've lived in Temple City for 55 years. I played tennis for 40 years, but I had a stroke. My mobility to move was restricted at a tennis court, so I switched to pickleball. And it's a great sport. But before we even started this thing, a collective group of us, I played tennis with all the tennis players. I went around to them before this was even started and said, this is what we would like to do. Do you guys have any objections? Not a one said no. And I said, please remember, you're all welcome to come to us. We have now approximately 25 people who play tennis who now come over and play pickleball. And as some said, they play pickleball in the morning, they play tennis afterwards. As far as concern of rotation and everything else, yeah, pickleball is a game to 11, you win by 2 points. Once you're done, you say open court, you get off the court, the next group comes on. The other thing I like about it is we have people who will come outside the fence to see our game. And they'll say, what is this? We say, it's pickleball. Would you like to try it? We've got extra paddles, we've got extra balls. We said, we'll have people here who will help you just to try and do it. And then all of them will come over. And they said, it's great. Now, we have people also from Arcadia, from Pasadena, that come over and said, you guys are doing a great job. Why don't, as she said, have permanent courts? And the friendship amongst the people is so great because you're turning over so much, and while you're waiting, you're sitting there talking to everybody else and learning so many things about it. We have people that are 12, 13, we have some 76, 78, 82. They come and play. We don't separate these groups. We all play together. I'm a fairly decent pickleball player. I'll play with anybody. We all have to learn, and we all want to express the importance of getting together and getting everybody involved. And that's the one thing I have seen so much about pickleball as opposed to tennis, that tennis will take you an hour and a half to get a game. There'll be 4 people. Pickleball, 15, 20 minutes, you got rotation on 4 courts. And it's rotation all the time. You're out, then you get a chance to come back in again. While you're out there, you get a chance to talk to people. And that's what made us a great community for pickleball, that relationship that we can develop. Thank you very much.
Well, why do they call it pickleball? Where does that come from?
Some people in Oregon, was it, or Washington, I think started it in their backyard. Just got a net out there and just shot paddle and just started hitting it.
It seems an odd name, pickleball.
I couldn't tell you why.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I'll have to research that.
Now, you asked
We'll
about,
Google that. We'll Google
there
that.
is a national pickleball.
Oh, I'm sure there is, yeah.
And it's held in.
I've seen it on ESPN too. So
Yeah.
somebody's getting paid, somebody's making money doing it too.
Oh, and there's tournaments around here all over the place you can go. Indian Wells is where they have the big national tournament.
Oh, at the tennis courts in India?
Yeah, and they convert the
Interesting.
tennis courts to pickleball courts. And they
Yeah,
have
it's
that
nice
for a
facility.
week.
Nice facility.
It's just grown so much that it's, very honestly, I hope that we have to get another court.
Well, I was gonna say, maybe next year you might be back here asking for another.
I
court.
hope so too. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Can I share it, will you?
Oh, when we say 4 courts, that means 16 people are on the court at that time.
Where do
4
you just
people?
stand?
Yeah,
Stand.
that's kind of
It's
a
pretty small.
problem that we have.
move very far.
You're standing on the sidelines, and you put your paddle, there's a place where you can put all your paddles up, groups of 4. And there's a marker 1, 2, 3, 4. One will go out there, then the next one will be 2 and 3, and you're staying on the sidelines. One of the things, I haven't had a check to Adam, we would like to see if we could get a gate on the outside so people can go outside the fence and watch, it's rather than all being kind of crunched in together.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. And if you would also please fill out a speaker form, we appreciate it. And I know Councilmember Sternquist, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I Googled it and it says the origin of pickleball and how its name came about is shrouded in mystery and urban legend. The game was invented about 60 years ago, and how it came to be called pickleball is a hotly discussed topic worldwide. But one thing we know is it has no relation with pickles.
So in other words, they don't know how it got that name.
No.
Interesting.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to address the city council at this point? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public comment and we'll go to final council comments. And maybe this time we'll start over here with Councilmember Viscara.
All I can say is I support it.
Okay.
I think it's a great game. I have friends that play. Eventually, I'll probably start playing.
I doubt it.
No
He
golf?
just says that.
From golfing to pickleball?
Yeah, I think golf's got him.
He's not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Until they start converting the golf courses
Go
to
pickleball.
pickleball.
There you go.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Yu?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's time that our city catches up with the rest of the world. So, actually, because of this item, actually, I watch pickleball on YouTube. I said, oh, man, this is good stuff. So, yeah, I think I'm excited.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Councilmember Sternquist?
I think it's great. I think the amount that we're allocating not to exceed $24,000, I think the benefit to the community members and those who maybe come from other communities to play if you have a tournament, I think it's a great idea. And I think now you should morph into a pickleball club and start that.
That's what we'll want to do.
So I think it's a great use of the ARPA funding, and I would like to see it move forward.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem
Is
Chavez?
$24,000 enough? Are we shortchanging
we have
ourselves?
a-
Are we
we have a-
being penny wise and pound foolish here? or-
We had gotten about 4 or 5 bids. The low bid was about $21,000. So there's a little bit of cushion, put in there. But we did solicit these quotes within the past couple
And I know
months.
you gave us the quote in the report, but I can't remember, I think it does include doing some work to the asphalt itself, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Repairing any of the cracks, and then also, doing a full overlay, 2-coat overlay. So it basically removes all the tennis court lines and then also lining it with pickleball lines. In terms of the timeline and the time frame, the actual work is probably only about a week's work of construction. It'll be a pretty quick turnover. More so, it's just dependent upon the vendor and when they're able to schedule it out.
Available,
Yes.
Okay, my initial concern, I think, as most people, and then when you read in the news and stuff, and it's been spoken about tonight, is the noise. But it appears that, and that's why I asked Adam to provide us with some more information, and it appears that those who are primarily will be affected are okay with it. And it appears to me, in doing some independent research also, that most of the complaints are coming from neighbors against neighbors. A neighbor puts a pickleball court in their backyard, and then there's no regulation of that, obviously. And this neighbor's out there at 12 o'clock at night playing pickleball, which could be a little irritating, I would imagine. Obviously, having it in a public area, you don't have those particular problems. But saying that, however, I do have a concern about allowing the start time to be 6 o'clock in the morning. And frankly, I'm a little surprised that we allow the use of our facilities without staff present. I know you say maintenance is there, but they're not there to watch the facilities necessarily, like staff would be, or if there's a complaint or a problem. And so I'm a little, uncertain with that. Not only just for this, but from a liability standpoint too. If we allow people going out there at 6 o'clock in the morning when virtually there's nobody at the park, that concerns me a little bit. But hearing a young lady tonight, doesn't sound like they're going to be out there, so why even do it? Why not have some restrictions, like from 8 o'clock in the morning to dusk or whatever you have, rather than just open it up at 6 o'clock? Is there some requirement that we do that? Can't we just set our own hours for that?
So I'd like the director to answer, but just a reminder to the council, we're here tonight talking about funding of the conversion as it comes to kind of the overall functioning of the park. That would certainly be something to bring back.
Well, not the overall function of the park, but I'm talking, okay, forget the park. We can talk about not having people on the pickleball court at 6 o'clock in the morning, can't we? Or is that another discussion?
It would be another discussion
So
because
so if we approve the money tonight, we're gonna have to bring this back to discuss when they're able to use that cart?
when they're able to use that as opposed to the tennis courts and the other areas of the park that generally open at 6 o'clock, unless the council as a whole wants to have the funding be contingent on coming back and discussing hours, which you could certainly do.
All right, I'm not really sure what you said, but
So you could fund, you
Okay.
could decide
All
not
right,
to
well,
fund.
I'm okay with the funding.
You
Okay,
could,
but I'm not okay with the hours. So if you're telling me we can't decide that tonight, I guess we can't decide that tonight. We'll have to
Correct.
do it another time. so.
correct, yes.
But how are we gonna do that? How is that gonna even get on our agenda? Does that, I mean, it sounds to me, and maybe this is a question for Adam. So you're telling me that our park's open at 6 o'clock in the morning? Primrose Park opens at 6 o'clock in the morning? No.
Primrose Park, we have specific hours because it's a
Residential.
enclosable
Right.
facility.
But then the tennis courts are enclosable.
They are, yes.
But the tennis courts are available at 6 o'clock in the morning, I assume.
Generally, once the staff is making their rounds, opening up restrooms and other, amenities, so tennis courts would be one of those. So, once they get on site and they
But
go
that's
around.
8 o'clock.
Usually it's about by like 6:30, the park maintenance staff.
I don't, maybe, again, excuse me, Greg, I understand what you're saying. I guess this is a discussion for another day, or maybe we need to have Parks and Rec look at it, but it seems to me that we kind of have a haphazard type of opening of the park and who's there and when they're there. I'm just a little uncomfortable with the fact that we have facilities being used without staff members there. And I wouldn't classify a maintenance worker who opens a gate or unlocks a lock to be somebody who's gonna supervise what's happening on those courts.
Yeah, and if I could say one thing, I think to Greg's point, even though we might be specifically talking about the pickleball courts, that perhaps has a domino effect on everything else that Parks and Rec does. Because, like, for example, Primrose Park, we don't have anyone there, right? But that's a public space, public facility. So I think to Greg's point, if Mayor Pro Tem would like to bring this back as for discussion at a future meeting, we can certainly do that. But
And it seems like the kind of
it's fine with me.
thing, it seems like the kind of thing that the city manager and the director can sort of present a well-thought-out staff report to you and walk through what we do today, and then have a discussion with the council and get some direction on how you would like to see the parks run kind of operationally in the
That
future.
sounds like a good resolution.
Thank you, sir.
Well, are the tennis courts
Just wanna go home.
for
Yeah.
the history of we've had them, have they always used them at 6 a.m.?
Usually as soon as the courts are open, there's people out there utilizing it, especially on the weekends. I would say it's not atypical for public parks and facilities to not be staffed during hours of use. Usually for like a main hub park location, you would have staff on site, but for many agencies, a majority of the parks, for majority of the hours that they're open, they're not specifically supervised by staff. We just happen to have less parks, so, we do have staff around, City Hall staff here at Temple City Park, recreation staff at Live Oak Park, but yes, Primrose would be a park where it's not supervised during use hours, but we could come back with a more, fully encompassing staff report on use hours and staff times to the commission at a later, or to the council at a later
I'll talk to
date.
Brian about it and we'll
Okay.
figure out what best way to handle it. I'm fine with that.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the time.
I don't either.
So I don't know if we need the whole thing I don't have an issue with the 6 a.m.
We can always evaluate it too, if it's approved, and maybe keep a little bit closer eye with our maintenance staff in the early morning hours and see if there is something to be brought back in terms of a concern.
okay. So for now, I'm hearing council. At least I see the nods. Is there's not a concern with the operational
I don't see
time.
any issue with the park hours, especially in the park that we're not closing it. So you need to
Okay.
chase people out.
Yeah.
And that may be kind of hard, even if you set it at 8. Somebody would be playing soccer. Back in the days when I was still running, I remember running by there, people would be playing soccer, playing tennis ball early in the morning.
Mhm.
And it never been a problem, to my knowledge. So.
Okay. All right, but in terms of any other comments you would like to make on the funding? Okay. All right, thank you. And I guess I'll keep my comments short. I support it. But I was gonna joke that you make it a condition of approval that you gotta beat the mayor at pickleball before we approve it. But then again, I'm no good at it, so that would be meaningless. But yeah, looking forward, I support it, and certainly to actually Councilmember Yu's point, yeah, it's about time we caught up.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Maybe just
Yeah.
one last comment.
Sure, sure.
I really appreciate the Director Matsumoto and the team that you, before you proposed it, you tried it out, did all this research. I think it's a great approach. Just want to compliment you on that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Okay, with that,
Good job.
we are ready for a council motion.
We'll make a motion that we allocate an amount not to exceed $24,000 from ARPA funds for the pickleball court renovation of Live Oak Park Court 7.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no objections, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Viscara?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. All right, so let's get the pickleball courts in.
Thank you for coming.
And then thank you for coming and sharing your experiences. We appreciate it. Thank you for
You need
the
to beat him.
thank you for the invitation. All right. Next, we have update from City Manager, which tonight we have Director Paragus in his place.
Thank you,
turn it over
Mayor.
to you.
No updates, just wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And don't forget, we do not have a council meeting on the first meeting of January, and we will see you at the second meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Update from our City Attorney, Mr. Murphy.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any council reports on ad hoc or standing committee meetings?
Go ahead.
The Las Tunas ad hoc met, and we just discussed a little bit more in detail how some of the Las Tunas improvement will be done, and so we have given some directions, things such as signage, colors, and so forth. So awnings. So staff will be bringing it back for full council for consideration.
It was, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
because it was, we got into a little more detail and started nailing down, I think we're getting close to the final product.
Yeah, we're closer, how many, location, and so forth. So we made recommendation that the ad hoc would the ad hoc does not make those final decisions. We wanted the council, full council, to make those decisions.
And the Blue Star banner has raised its head.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're.
I said it nicely.
Okay. And do you know if that's being brought back to council second meeting of January, or that's still pending?
Well, actually, we didn't discuss the date.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have the city manager get back to us on that. So. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you. Any other reports? I don't think we have any, right? Okay. Then we move on to items separate.
And note that you wanted to consider establishing a new ad hoc.
That's right, huh? City manager
manager is
was requesting us to establish a CDBG funding allocation ad hoc.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I guess since Director Paragus, you're here, do you have any additional information you can provide us on that?
No, I don't, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Put it over to the next one.
All right, then we will defer that to the next meeting because I don't anticipate the ad hoc will meet between now and the next council meeting. And we'll wait for the city manager to give us a bit more information on that. All right, so we'll go on to items separate from the regular agenda, starting with Councilmember Sternquist.
Just want to share that the unveiling of the mural and the bronze statues at the park was it was lovely. It was just so nice to see it, and actually see the artists and give some kudos to Kathy Keelan. Bob Hepler wasn't able to attend, but it was really nice, Adam, and the community planting, seeing everybody involved in planting, replanting at that park, just really gave a sense of community, and there's nothing more wonderful to see that if the city makes an investment in the community, that the community takes pride in what's there, and just the people there were so engaged and so grateful for that park. So I think that was just a wonderful opportunity for the community to get engaged again and take some pride in what we've built there. So that pretty much, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Viscara.
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything. And I agree with Councilmember Sternquist as far as the park went. You know, I was peripherally involved with it, and I think it really came out great. And I think we're still looking for at least one of the butterfly benches, right? And perhaps a mural on the bathroom. But other than that, we're probably there. You can't get much better than it is. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Yu.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I unfortunately couldn't make it to the art unveiling and planting because I have a different park to go to. But I remember at the park that I worked on, and people would comment how great, how compact, how many things could be placed in one park. I said, well, yeah, this park is nice, but yet you haven't seen our Primrose Park. So, and well, congratulations on a job well done again.
Thank you for that.
And with that, I wish everybody a happy holidays.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Thank you. Well, first of all, so I don't forget, happy holidays, everyone. And we won't be meeting again until the end of January, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be a while. Anyway, I just want to let you know that the youth committee actually was fortunate to take a tour of the Homestead Museum last, was it 2 Sundays ago, Peggy? I think we went. We had a private tour by, his name escapes me right now. Help me out, Peggy.
Paul
Spitzeri. Gave us a private tour, and I think the kids were really impressed and got a chance to learn some more history of Temple City. And so we've been doing that now for the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, taking them, and they fix it up really nice for the holidays. And they've done a lot of improvements, actually, both structurally and from a technology standpoint. They've set up these things where you can actually use your phone and go on it, and it'll tell you something about it. It's kind of cool.
Did they see the gravesite for?
Yeah, we went over to the
what
mausoleum, or
is the daughter's name? That was in our parade and.
Josette.
oh, Josette.
Josette.
Yeah. And one thing I found out when I was there, and I didn't know it before, is, you know, Walter Temple had 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl's name was Agnes, who we have our Agnes Street. The boys didn't get a street named after them. I don't know why, but I don't know what their names were, but they didn't have a street named after them.
I think it was Thomas and Walter Temple Jr.
Yeah, Walter Temple Jr. Anyway, little trivia. But I just want to also remind everybody that, and Adam just confirmed this with me, that the city is actually organizing a Homestead Museum tour on March 23rd. I think we're going to have shuttle buses going back and forth from here to the museum.
Oh, wow.
So we'll get some more information on that.
Oh, that's
And it's kind of be like in part of the 100-year celebration.
Oh, that's great.
So give everybody a chance to see it. You know, it's funny.
That's great.
It's like you would never know it's there until you're there. It's right in the middle of a nondescript area, but it's like a little oasis in the middle of all these commercial buildings. But it is pretty cool. They have a, you know, nice, the museum, of course, and then the homes where Walter Temple lived, and
They do beautiful events out in the garden.
yeah, they do a lot of
Yeah,
events in the garden.
that grass
In fact,
lawn
the
area,
day we were
yeah.
there, they were doing an event when we were leaving. And it's just a beautiful area. So I'm hoping all of us, I'm sure most of us will go when we have that event too. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I too want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. As Director Paragas mentioned, our next council meeting is actually January 16th of 2024, which I'm going to have a hard time getting used to this to say, since I just barely got used to saying 2023. But anyway, yeah, a lot going on. I too echo the success of the community planning event and the unveiling of the mural. That was very nice. I got a chance to also speak with the artist, and he went into a lot of detail as to some of the.
It goes into a lot.
Yeah. One thing he described, and I guess it didn't really occur to me until he said it, was if you look at the mural, he says he intended for the birds and the trees and everything to kind of have this like circular pattern around the mural. Which, upon closer look, I said, "Oh, actually, it does." And the way he described it was, and that was intentional, to signify, I guess, circle being kind of the perfect shape, and of course, there's a lot of things that are unique to not just Temple City, like the parrots, but also things unique to the San Gabriel Valley. So I thought that was a sort of the icing on top of the cake of Primrose Park that has been already a great success, and we get so much great feedback about Primrose Park. So that was very nice to see. And along with the bronze statues, I also want to mention that a few of us from council also got a chance to visit the Begonia Apartments on Rosemary Boulevard, which is the first mixed-use building in our city, first ever. Impressive construction. They did it in a very short time, I think, and they also, one thing I do want to toot our own horn and give staff their kudos. They kept talking about how great it was to work with our staff throughout this entire development and entitlement process, and they say that they won't name other cities, but they say, hey, this was such a smooth process compared to projects that they have worked in other jurisdictions. So I felt very proud to hear that, and I just want to express and thank our entire staff who worked on and worked with the developer on that. So that was definitely an interesting milestone. Besides that, I think looking forward to the holidays. Hopefully everyone got the message about relaxed overnight parking. And unlike some comments, no, it does not mean you get to relax in your car overnight. It just means we're relaxing enforcement. So someone made a snide comment about that.
And then still, I think they're still enforcing trash day.
That's, yes, trash, street sweeping.
Street
Street yes, thank you. That's an important distinction, is street sweeping is still enforced. It's overnight parking that's being relaxed. So, all right. With that, we move on to the final portion, which is any additional public comments before we end the meeting. All right, seeing none, I will close public comments, and we are adjourned. Good night.